Yeah, Randy Hartman comes in. He said he's super interested in OJ Howard. Is he fully healthy? And if so, what's the plan? What are your thoughts on OJ Howard?
Well, I mean, not to give things away too early, but I think it's entirely possible the Bills only keep two tight ends on the
Mhm.
roster like they did last year. I see OJ Howard giving the Bills a chance to run some interesting formations. I think they have a chance potentially to um, run some 12 personnel, obviously options with OJ Howard. And I think what it is it's a we talk about tendency breakers, right? It's a situation where if you have OJ Howard and Dawson Knox on the field at the same time, you don't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen if you're the opposing defense. And I think that's something the Bills have been lacking, right? They really
Mhm.
haven't had that threat necessarily of that second tight end being a receiving threat that they have now with OJ Howard. So that's a new wrinkle that I'd like to see sort of how they are incorporating him in the camp. It's a great comment by
Mhm.
Randy. Are the Bills going to be have a little bit more deception on offense this year? A little bit more, a few more wrinkles, adding a second tight end into some of these packages, running more 12 personnel. Maybe that's a situation where you do only see some two wide
Mhm.
sets for the Bills, and maybe James Cook mixes in as like as a interesting combination to put on the field with OJ Howard. So I'm excited by the prospects that the Bills have a legitimate second tight end who is a receiving threat. Where
Mhm.
honestly, before Dawson Knox's breakout, we were wondering who like the number one tight end was going to be as a receiving threat. So now the Bills legitimately have two. So it's very exciting to see how they're going to potentially use him this year.
Yeah, just the tight end room in general is going to be super interesting. I'm looking. One of the things I'm going to be paying attention for is what are the personnel groupings in which OJ Howard is brought onto the field as well? Like, is he just a pure backup to Dawson Knox, and we see a lot of 11 personnel like the Buffalo Bills have been utilizing? Do we see a lot of that in training camp? Do we see some more introduction of 12 personnel? Do we
Mm-hmm.
see 11 personnel where maybe one of the tight ends, whether it's Dawson Knox or OJ Howard, are in the slot? Do we see a situation where the Bills go spread, 4 or 5 receivers, and Dawson Knox and OJ Howard are out there both lined up as receivers and not tight ends? There's a lot of versatility in the ways in which you can utilize both Dawson Knox and OJ Howard. So it's going to be really interesting just to see what the personnel groupings look like, and how they utilize OJ Howard. And speaking of tight end, you mentioned you wouldn't be surprised if the Buffalo Bills keep 2 tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Sweeney's a fan favorite, or not a fan favorite, a coaching staff favorite. I mean, this is a guy that is beloved in that locker room. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the roster again. The Buffalo Bills keep 3 tight ends, but he's going to be pushed by a rookie in Jalen Wydermeyer, who tested awfully at the combine, but going into the process was one of the top 2, 3 ranked tight ends in the country heading into this draft class. So
Yep.
a real sleeper UDFA who could push to make this roster, or the Buffalo Bills could find a long-term plan for, because OJ Howard's on an expiring contract. Dawson Knox is on an expiring contract. Do you try to keep that guy on the roster as opposed to risking him to the practice squad? And you also got a fan favorite, not a coaching staff favorite, but a fan favorite in Quintin Morris sticking out there as well. What do you think about the tight end depth? If we do keep 3, who you got your eye on as that guy you think could win the job?
Well, if we do keep 3, I think in my heart of hearts, I'd want it to be Weidermeyer, right?
Mhm.
I know he was ranked very highly before his testing, and that kind of plummeted him, forcing him to become
Mhm.
a UDFA, basically. I'm not as worried about Weidermeyer being poached. I think if he didn't make the team, he would he would be on the practice squad. I mean,
Mhm.
he was a UDFA, so it's not like the Bills drafted him. Um, I at some point in time, you have to look at Tommy Sweeney from the football side of this, from the production side, from the business side. And I hate to say that, but like, I don't know that you want to go another year with Tommy Sweeney as
Mhm.
your third tight end if you're going to keep 3 tight ends. Like, it's fine if they do. It's not like it's not going to like keep me up at night. But I'd like to see maybe the Bills give someone else a chance there if they are going to end up keeping 3 tight ends. And who knows?
Mhm.
Maybe Tommy Sweeney outplays all of them in training camp and it doesn't even matter. But as far as the depth of the room, it's probably the best depth we've had in the room, like in the last 20 years, if not longer,
Mhm.
and maybe ever, honestly. Because this position, as I've said, and I've used this term before, has been like a purgatory for the Bills in the last 20
Mhm.
years. And we've been trying to find guys to fill the role, Charles Clay, Scott Chandler, these different guys. And like now you have a bona fide sort of rising star towards elite status in Dawson Knox. I'm not going to put him there yet, but he's rising, he's ascending quickly.
Mhm.
And a guy who's a former first rounder in OJ Howard, who maybe fresh, new environment is a good situation for him. Used to playing in a situation where there's multiple tight ends ahead of him, like Gronk and Cameron Brate in Tampa.
Mhm.
So not a situation that should be uncomfortable for OJ Howard. And then you mentioned Morris as well. So the depth in the room is nice. I like it. And that's probably the one thing you hang your hat on if you want to say they'll keep three.
Mhm.
But it still wouldn't surprise me if they only keep two.